Coming up on City Spotlight, we're talking Charleston. We will talk with the Mayor of Charleston, Dr. Brendan Combs, and Scott Smith, Charleston City Manager, about the latest economic development in Charleston, plus upcoming public works projects. We will head out to Lake Charleston and talk with Brendan Lynch of the City of Charleston Tourism Board about ongoing and past work done to the Lake Charleston area. That's all next on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. Thank you to all of you for joining us for another edition of City Spotlight. Today we are talking Charleston. We'd like to welcome back to the program the Mayor of Charleston, Dr. Brendan Combs.
Hello, Ramin. It's good to be back.
Very good. And Scott Smith, City Manager of Charleston. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Glad to have you guys here on one of the last days of March here. And it's a busy time of year for many municipalities as you guys are finalizing your budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. And we have an upcoming local election. So it's kind of a busy time of year, isn't it, Brendan?
Yeah, it's a very busy time of the year. I was just telling Scott yesterday, it seems like there's not a day that goes by where we don't have something going on. And that's going on with the city, let alone other things, so it's crazy. And we do have the local elections. We have 3 people vying for 2 seats on our city council, and then myself as running as mayor and running unopposed. So that takes one less busy part out of it this spring for me. So
okay, very good. And last year we talked a couple times about a lot of new economic development in Charleston, and either one of you, what have you guys seen as far as reaction or your own personal thoughts about with all the new businesses, whether it be pizza places, Aldi's? What's been the impact on Charleston?
Well, I think obviously, people were pretty excited about the new Aldi's, and I think that's went over very, very well. Unfortunately, we lost our Save-A-Lot, and that was probably equally as popular. So we win one and lose one. I guess that's just kind of the nature of it, but that's unfortunate. But I think the new Aldi store is being very well received, and it seems to be rather busy anytime I'm in there. And of course the pizza places and the other restaurants, the Domino's, of course, I think again have been busy as well. So I think from what I've gathered, the community has been pretty supportive of the new pizza places. In particular, I think the Domino's and obviously the Aldi's. So, but I also could say too that the expansions on Huck's and Casey's and some of the other businesses have also been very, very well supported and needed. And from what I gather from talking with residents, they were appreciative of all those projects. So,
some of those places you just mentioned, I'm a frequent visitor to, and the appearance on the outside and inside is very noticeable and very appealing for people to come in.
Absolutely.
Just in the last couple of days here, prior to our taping here at the end of March, we have a new restaurant in Charleston that's opened.
Yes. Alexander Grill is opening, in fact has opened, I believe, in the former Friends and Company location up on the square. So really excited about that. I know the owners have invested quite a bit, brought in a chef, and have a really exciting menu, and so they've opened their doors, and I believe there's a ribbon cutting that's going to take place as well with the chamber tomorrow. So
okay, all right, very good. And we've seen the construction over the past year on 18th Street, the villas at Hollybrook, Reggie Phillips facility there, and it is a very large facility there. It's nearing completion?
Yeah, talked to Steve Pamprin and Alex Winkler in our office earlier this week about it, and they've made real significant progress over the winter months. And when you drive by, obviously it's taking on the appearance that it's nearing completion, and it is. I believe the schedule was for them to be able to even do some tours with some folks in March or early April. I'm not sure if that's actually occurring. It may be, but when you drive by, you can certainly tell that they're making significant progress, and they'll be complete soon.
Any other economic development news that you can mention anything about, whether you can say something's coming to town, or we can look forward to like a certain area?
We've got another restaurant that's in the works at a location there near Lincoln Avenue that should be announced here soon, and hopefully will get open as well. And then Steve Pamper and I have been working with our consultants and our staff on some other possible projects that are in the works. We think there might or could be a possible transition in the ownership of one of the strip centers, and so that might or could lend itself to some new businesses coming to town. So a little early to really talk much about that, but we're certainly working with the owners and our retail consultants and other folks that we work with to try to help them any way we can.
And Brendan, just to get your thoughts, not that we can't not ask you every time, but the continued need for growth and economic development in Charleston, what you've seen over the time since you've been mayor.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a significant amount. It seems like every time we're on here, that's what, we're always talking about the growth, and there really has been a significant amount of growth, and even at a time where the economy isn't the best and budgets aren't the best, but yet there's still a need, there's still an interest here in Charleston, as Scott said. I mean, there's probably not a week that goes by where someone's not calling and wanting to talk with Steve or Scott or Alex or I, about a possibility of doing something new here in Charleston. So there's always interest, and that's very uplifting, and it's quite frankly, it's fantastic, especially in this nature. So
one thing I missed, and sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mayor, but one of the things I did miss was the Plush Boutique up on the square did add a children's wing on the north end, that other half of that property. And they opened their doors just a couple of weeks ago, and I hear that's doing well. So that's a business that opened their doors up last year, and now they've expanded already a second time into the other half of that building. So we're really excited about what Ryan and his partner have done with that property, and I think it's gone over very, very well with the community. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that, and what it's done for the downtown too.
Good to hear about new things on the square.
Yes,
it's awesome to hear. Any demolitions? I think you mentioned you want to talk about a few demolitions.
Yeah, we've been working with council and obviously our attorney and Steve Pamperin and Alex and the folks over at the county and the county's agent that can assist the city with acquisition of properties like this that have fallen into disrepair and are delinquent. We have the ability to acquire those. And then, with council's support and approval, and we talked about this at the retreat, that we had 3 or 4 properties that really were in need of demolishing, and this is the way to get that done. So we're in the process of acquiring those, and then our crews will go in and actually take care of the demolitions, get the lots cleaned up, and then our goal is to get those back in the hands of a developer or a neighboring property owner. Habitat for Humanity, those sorts of names kind of get thrown around. So, and we're in the middle of that right now. We hope to get 3 houses down. In fact, one of them was taken down, or 2 of them are already down. I think one of them's already down, and we've got a couple more left to go in April. So,
okay, very good. And it's the time of year where you guys have probably set up what public works projects you want to deal with this year, and you gave me a list of a number of streets that are going to be worked on. One of them, 10th Street. There's been some work there.
Yeah, we're doing utility work on 10th Street. We've already started that project. We got started on that in the fall last year, ran into a few snags, so our crews are back on that now. We've got a big project going on down at the lake where we're improving all the parking, the construction of a new pavilion, and landscaping and restrooms and all that over there near the boat dock, boat ramp to the access to the Embra and down by the dam. That'll be very nice, and that's a collaborative project with Charleston Area Charitable Foundation. We've got a number of sidewalk projects that are in the works. We've got a number of street improvements, mill and overlay, and some cul-de-sacs and side streets. So there's a lot on the schedule, both in public works, parks, maintenance, and just a lot of things going on this summer. So we're pretty excited about that.
And Brandon, I've noticed, it's hard not to notice all the public works vehicles that are out and about in Charleston, and talk about their efforts continuing to take care of some of the little projects, little street refurbishes here and there.
Well, I mean, it's great, especially the sidewalk. Everyone notices the sidewalks, but I can't say enough about our street and utility crews. We have some fantastic guys on there, and they do great work, and anytime there's an issue, they get to it, they get on it, they get it fixed. But yeah, anytime you're updating sidewalks and making the streets better, everyone's happy, No one wants to hit that pothole or have the cracks in their sidewalk. So,
absolutely. Coming up a little bit later in the program, we're going to go to Lake Charleston and talk with Brendan Lynch about the ongoing and past work that has been done in recent years to Lake Charleston there, and we've talked about that. And boy, that new entrance there at Sister City Park, people are just they're out and about on the trails there. What can you guys say about the improvements?
Yeah, it's that place is always packed. And matter of fact, even if you ever go around to Lake Charleston side, I go out there with my family, and it's hard to find a parking spot. I mean, I've never seen in my lifetime, in the 35 years that I've been here in Charleston, I've never seen the lake used like this. And then now at Sister City, you can see it too. You can drive by there, and it's just packed. And you go out there, and you see so many people, and there's people coming from all over to check out those trails. So it's not just, it's great locally, but it's also a good draw to Charleston as well, because a lot of people really do enjoy those trails. And it's beautiful out there. I mean, it is. It really, really is.
And one thing we talked about with Brendan in the next segment, and also we had Cindy White earlier on a couple months ago, and the Tour of Charleston bike races. A lot of people are excited about that event coming up. To be the first one of that, what kind of impact do you think an event like that could have for Charleston?
Well, I think Brendan's pretty excited about it, as is the Chamber, because I also serve on the Chamber board, and it's something that we talked about, engaging in some sort of a community function. Maybe a little bit outside of the box for the Chamber, but it's something that we thought we could embrace and get behind, and it was an event that the Exchange Club was responsible for in coordinating that event for a number of years, and the Exchange Club sort of disbanded, and that was one of the events that they approached us about, we talked to them about, and we thought we could handle it, the Chamber. And of course, Cindy's working with some members of our staff, and I think I think the event can grow quite a bit over the next few years, and certainly with Brendan and his support and all the folks that he has contact with, is only going to make that event bigger and stronger. And so we see that as another opportunity for tourism, and even talking about collaborating that event with some other events locally that'll provide a real opportunity for people to come into Charleston, spend the day, participate in that event, and potentially go to some other events along the way.
That's all I have on my list of items to talk about, gentlemen. Are there any other events or things that you'd like to mention here at the last second?
Boy, if I start talking, you'll run out of time.
Yeah.
But no, we just appreciate the opportunity to come on and share, and all the good things that are going on in Charleston, and just how lucky we are to have the crews that we have that can do all the work that we're getting done. So like the mayor said, in tough times like we've been experiencing, there's a lot of good things going on. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and with the lake trails and stuff, and then that paving in between Mattoon and Charleston, Steve Pamprin has been, he works his tail off. He's out there doing a lot of different things, whether it be the bike, the Lake Island stuff, or the paving of the bike trails, or the new businesses, or whatever, and Greg Culp, and there's and then Brendan, and Chad Isley. These guys are really putting in a lot of time, and a lot of it is actually off their duty. It's off duty time that they spend out there. So, the city is very blessed to have the caliber of employees that we have. Scott's staff is amazing, and they all work well together. And I'm just very, I feel very blessed to be where I am here in Charleston, and I just see more good things coming. So.
Well, there's no I in team, so it's a team effort to get everything done.
That is true.
That's right.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. The Mayor of Charleston, Dr. Brendan Combs, Scott Smith, City Manager of Charleston. Thank you guys for coming on the program again.
Thanks
again.
Ramin. Thanks again.
Yep.
And coming up next here on City Spotlight, we'll go out to Lake Charleston and talk with Brendan Lynch about some of the ongoing work and past work that has taken place at the lake. But first, let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Charleston. And we're back here on City Spotlight. We've left the studio and we have Lake Charleston as our background. To help us talk about Lake Charleston and a few other things is Brendan Lynch. He's an advocacy director at Bike and Hike in Charleston, and also with the City of Charleston Tourism Board. Welcome to the program, Brendan.
Thanks, Ramin. It's a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for coming on the program. Your first time on City Spotlight. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, Ramin, I've been very active in the Lake Charleston Development Plan over the course of the last several years. What began as a volunteer project with mountain bikers building trails for hikers and other mountain bikers has transformed into something far bigger and better than we ever could have imagined. We've been working on here for several years now, and we are the beneficiary of really a very wholesome public-private relationship between the City of Charleston and the Trail Volunteers. The Trail Volunteers build and maintain and work on the single-track trails, and obviously the City of Charleston workers, the engineers, the city planner, the city manager, make sure that the bigger, more labor-intensive and capital-intensive projects are done. Where we started with just a little bit of trail for hiking and biking has now blossomed into something that's really quite lovely for everybody. We've got ADA compliant paths on the levee. We've got aggregate on the north part of the lake, and we now have a full contiguous loop that you can circumnavigate Lake Charleston. There's an entrance and egress at Lakeview Park. There's an entrance and egress at Sister City, and then there's an entrance and egress at Woodyard, and there's an entrance and egress at Lake Charleston. So there's multiple points of entry that are taken advantage of quite a bit. The current capital improvement is really focusing on the Lake Island track. There's a new trail that cuts across it, providing expansive sight lines of the levee behind us. It gives a sense of elevation that was carefully and methodically scoped out by Chad Isley in the Public Works Department using some relatively sophisticated tooling. So it's designed to be erosion resistant, minimizing any kind of labor costs that we'd have on upkeep, and keeping hikers and cyclists out of the road, making for a more holistic path around the lake. Behind us, we're going to see improved parking, we're going to see a new pavilion, we're going to see better roundabouts, and we're going to see the handiwork of one of the master craftsmen on the city team, Greg Culp, in the Public Works Department. We're blessed to be a part of the project, and we look forward to many, many years of a happy partnership between the private sector and the public sector part of the city government.
Very good. Backtrack just a few years ago, the Woodyard Trails kind of started and got going about 3 years ago, and you mentioned that, as well as the entrance you mentioned at Sister City Park, which opened just this past summer and fall. Talk about the 3-4 years that this has been going on, and all the work that really has people can really notice it.
Well, the backstory of the trails for us is very interesting. Lakeview Park has been around for decades, and it was kind of the park that time forgot. Several years ago, Greg Culp from the Public Works Department approached me about building some trails out at Woodyard, and I partnered up with him and Chad Isley, and we built from the inside out. We got training from the International Mountain Bike Association. We got some training from the United States Forest Service and the Department of the Interior, and we built far out in the woods. We did proof of concept trails to see how they withstood the test of time and any erosion protocols that may or may not arise. We partnered up with Barry Cronenfeld at the GIS department at EIU for state-of-the-art maps that allowed us to create trails that would be resilient and resistant to rainfall. That's important because the trails last longer, and it allows people to use the trails more when they're not muddy. That was a really, by today's standard, and by today I mean right now standard, it was relatively primitive. We were using hand tools. We were physically carrying in non-organic materials such as recycled concrete blocks to create erosion control. And we didn't really know what the end result was going to be. We knew that they would be used because trails throughout America have been successful projects. We knew that they would be used because there's a demand for outdoor recreation that's not driven by swing sets and sandlots, but instead is driven by a sense of the outdoors that only trails can provide. And we knew that it would be successful, and we knew it would be used because there's not a lot of similar trail around it. We did not, however, understand what the scope of our success success would be. So over time, we'd have hikers using it and mountain bikers using it. And then as it became evident that the project was very, very successful, the city partnered up with the Charleston Charitable Trust and provided some funding for some improvements that otherwise couldn't have been done. And the Charleston Charitable Trust, in a lot of ways, are really heroes in this process. They paid for and provided support for absolutely critical improvements, including but not limited to the path to Sister City, the paving of the levee, the bridging down in the lowland areas. So again, you have this combination of talent, you have this combination of skills that came together to create a cohesive team all working for the same cause. So you've got a legion of volunteers promoting and building. You've got the city intellectual architecture providing the imprimatur of authority, and then you have the Charleston Charitable Trust providing project-specific grant monies, allowing us to create this incredible resource for our community without hitting the tax base. So at a time of austerity, when the state of Illinois is obviously not exactly cash flush, the private sector really came together, worked with the city government, and created something that's been an incredible benefit to so many people. Not a day goes by that we don't see an out-of-state license plate. Anecdotal data shows that we've got people coming from Indiana almost constantly, looking at hashtags on Instagram, which I would include your viewers to do and put on Instagram pictures. You can see that people from all over are taking advantage of this remarkable amenity, and it's positioning the city of Charleston as a leader in outdoor recreation in downstate Illinois. We're the masters of our own domain, we're the architects of our own fate, and we're really fortunate and we're really happy to be in the position that we've put ourselves in.
A lot of hands and groups have been a part to make this happen, and we've talked on this program with other communities and them getting going on trail systems or existing trail systems and how important they are to their communities. What is the role of Lake Charleston for Charleston and the surrounding area?
As of right now, Lake Charleston and the trails are not just a destination for the residents and a place for healthy living, but they've become an economic engine unto themselves. People come to Lake Charleston from sometimes hours away. They'll ride their bikes for a couple hours. They'll eat at one of our local restaurants. They'll buy gas at one of our local gas stations. They'll buy bottled water at one of our grocery stores. And because the quality of the work on the trails has been so high, and due in large part to Greg Culp and Chad Isley and Steve Pampern, the public works guys, people come back. They're not satisfied with just one trip here. So it's creating a trail culture unto itself. And Charleston has embraced this project in a full-throated, unalloyed fashion that really makes the Lake Charleston Trail Project very, very welcoming. From a tourism standpoint, you could not ask for a better amenity. It's cliche to say that people with PhDs are moving to Portland to flip burgers because it's Portland. We now have a source of outside recreation within the city limits that's built by bikers for bikers. It's built by hikers for hikers. It's built by city workers for city workers. This is what, in any measure of the word, is a best case scenario.
So built by the people that know the terrain very well. We have some of the construction behind us that's taking place. When did that get started? And is there a rough timetable for when there might see completion?
I don't want to pigeonhole the guys into a rough timetable. I will say this: the speed at which they're working is remarkable. If a public works department could be an Usain Bolt, our public works department is an Usain Bolt. They are moving so quickly, it's the stuff of legend. Other public works departments throughout the state are looking at the speed at which our guys are moving, and it's nothing short of remarkable. They're building trail at a breakneck speed. Projects that would take other communities years, we're pounding out in months. And by we, I mean these are our public workers. These are our city workers. These are our fellow citizens. And, you know, credit's really got to go where credit's due. The Greg Culp with Public Works, Kurt Buscher with Public Works, Scott Smith, the city manager, sees the value in this, Steve Pamprin, the city planner, and we're incredibly fortunate to have a fabulous mayor, Brendan Combs, who's completely on board. So we've got, at the high-ranking level of the city government, we've got a team that understands the value, not just in creating deliverables, but the speed at which it's done. And there certainly is a deep bench of volunteers and advocates like myself for which we're a phone call or a text away, and where our answer will always be yes.
Last couple comments here, Brendan, with you about Lake Charleston. We could spend a whole show talking about the lake. If you had a few words to describe what Lake Charleston is right now, what would they be?
Something for everybody. Great care has been brought to the project to view it holistically so that birders are represented, that hikers are represented. I have a brand new puppy who many of your viewers will know, the lovely Tio. Dog walkers are represented, mountain bikers are represented, hikers are represented, families are represented. My father had open heart surgery recently. We want to have cardiac rehab people represented. This is an incredibly inclusive and progressive environment that we want for everybody, and it's built for everybody. And to be able to be a part of it has been one of the great events in my career.
Thank you so much, Brendan, for the update on that. We look forward to seeing the progress continue on with Lake Charleston. I want to ask you about one more thing coming up, Brendan. The Tour of Charleston is a bike race that Cindy White, who was on the program a few months ago from the Charleston Chamber of Commerce, she mentioned that was an upcoming event. There's some excitement around town going about this event. It's happening in early June. Can you tell us more about the event, please?
Absolutely. June 3rd, mark it on your calendars. We have the first annual, or as my father, the English professor would say, inaugural Tour of Charleston bicycle ride. It's a timed bicycle ride, so there's both a riding and a racing component. There's a 50-mile ride, there's a 12.5-mile ride, and right in the middle there's a 25-mile ride. Chief Baker and John Bennett with the Charleston Police Department have provided immeasurable assistance, and they will be leading it out. Charleston Chamber of Commerce is doing a remarkable job organizing the event. We'll see people that I know of already are coming from Chicago, from Springfield. It's a huge tourism draw, and it works really very, very, very holistically with our overall theme of having the various outdoor recreational aspects coexist with one another in a progressive manner.
All right, thank you so much, Brendan Lynch, City of Charleston Tourism Board, and a bike and hike in Charleston. Thank you for taking the time to be on City Spotlight.
My pleasure, Ramin. It means the world to me.
All right. And that'll wrap it up for this edition of City Spotlight on Charleston. We'll see you next time. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.